What would you do if the family trip you'd poured your heart into planning was suddenly ripped apart by a single text? David stood frozen in the kitchen, the phone in his hand, trembling as he reread the message from his wife. Laura, my sister's boyfriend deserves your spot more. He's family now. The words stung like a betrayal, each syllable slicing through the months of anticipation he'd built for their dream vacation, a rare chance to reconnect as a family. The Hawaiian sun, the laughter of their two kids, the promise of a week free from the grind of life fight was all slipping away. David's chest tightened. How had it come to this? For months, David had meticulously planned the trip. He'd saved every spare dollar, working overtime at the warehouse to cover the cost of flights, a beachfront rental, and activities the kids would love: snorkeling, hiking, even a luau. Laura had been distant lately, buried in her own world of work stress and family drama. But David thought this trip would bring them closer. Their marriage had been strained, stretched thin by late-night arguments and unspoken resentments. But he believed in the power of shared moments. He pictured Laura's smile as they watched the kids build sandcastles, the weight of their struggles lifting, if only for a week. Now, that vision was crumbling. The text wasn't just about the trip. It was about Laura's sister, Claire, and her new boyfriend, Ethan. Claire had always been a storm in their lives, impulsive, demanding, and fiercely protective of her own happiness. Ethan, a charming but unreliable musician, had swept into Claire's life 6 months ago, and suddenly he was family. David barely knew the guy, yet Laura's text implied Ethan was more deserving of this trip than him, the man who'd planned it, paid for it, dreamed of it. He reread the message, hoping he'd misunderstood, but the words were unmistakable. His spot, his family, his sacrifice, all dismissed. David sank into a chair, the kids' laughter echoing from the backyard. Emma, 8, and Noah, 5, were oblivious to the fracture forming in their world. He couldn't tell them yet. He needed answers. He dialed Laura, who was at her sister's place, but the call went to voicemail. His mind raced. Was this about money? Space on the trip? Or something deeper? He typed a reply. What does this mean? I planned this for us. For the kids. No response. The silence was louder than any argument they'd ever had. That evening, Laura came home, her face a mask of exhaustion and defiance. Claire needs this, she said before David could speak. Ethan's been through a lot. His band broke up. He's struggling. They're serious, David. He's good for her. David's jaw clenched. And I'm not good for you? For our kids. Laura's eyes flickered with guilt, but she pressed on. It's just one trip. You can stay home, work. We'll make it up later. Her words felt like a script, rehearsed and hollow. David wanted to shout, to demand why Ethan's struggles trumped his own, but the kids were in earshot. He swallowed his anger, nodding stiffly. Fine. We'll talk later. Sleep didn't come that night. David lay awake, replaying every moment of their marriage. Had he missed the signs? Laura's late nights helping Claire, her growing distance, the way she'd stopped sharing her thoughts. The trip was supposed to fix things, but now it felt like a spotlight on their cracks. By morning, he made a decision. He wouldn't beg for his spot. He wouldn't fight Laura's choice. But he wouldn't let this break Heimer his kids. The next day, David sat Emma and Noah down. Mommy's taking Aunt Claire and Ethan on the trip, he said, keeping his voice steady. Emma's eyes widened. But you planned it, Daddy. Noah's lip quivered. You're not coming? David forced a smile. I'll be here with you guys. We'll have our own adventure. Their disappointment mirrored his own, but he saw something else in their eyes' trust. They believed in him, and that was enough to keep going. Enter Sarah, the twist in David's story. Sarah was Emma's schoolteacher, a kind woman in her late 40s who'd noticed David's quiet strength during parent-teacher conferences. She'd lost her husband years ago and raised her son alone, and her warmth had always put David at ease. That week, she called to check on Emma, who'd been quieter in class. David, raw from the fight with Laura, opened up about the trip. Sarah listened, then said, "You're a good dad, David. Don't let anyone make you feel less." Her words were a lifeline, pulling him from the edge of despair. Sarah suggested a new plan. Why not make your own trip with the kids? Something simple, meaningful. David hesitated. Money was tight, but Sarah's encouragement sparked an idea. He'd take Emma and Noah camping, something they'd always begged to do. He spent the next few days planning. A nearby state park, a borrowed tent, and a cooler full of their favorite snacks. He even bought a cheap telescope for stargazing, remembering how Emma loved constellations. The kids' excitement was infectious, and for the first time in weeks, David felt hope. The day Laura left for Hawaii with Claire and Ethan, David packed the car for the campsite. Emma clutched her star chart, and Noah bounced with excitement over roasting marshmallows. As they drove, David's phone buzzed a text from Laura. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." He stared at it, torn between anger and relief. He didn't reply. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about him and the kids. The camping trip was far from perfect. The tent collapsed twice, Noah got a mosquito bite, and it rained one night, forcing them to huddle in the car. But it was theirs. They laughed until their sides hurt, told ghost stories, and spotted Orion's belt through the telescope. Emma whispered, "This is better than Hawaii, Daddy." Noah hugged him so tight it hurt. David realized something profound. Family wasn't about who claimed the title. It was about who showed up. When Laura returned, tan but subdued, she found a different David. Not the angry husband she'd left, but a man who'd reclaimed his worth. They truly talked for the first time in months. Laura admitted she'd been overwhelmed, leaning on Claire's drama to avoid their own. Ethan, she confessed, was a mistake. Claire had pushed for his inclusion, and Laura hadn't known how to say no. David listened, but he didn't absolve her. "I'm done being invisible," he said. "The kids and I deserve better." The conversation didn't fix everything. Trust was bruised, and healing would take time. But David proposed a new plan, a family trip, just the four of them, no exceptions. Laura agreed, tears in her eyes. They chose a cabin in the mountains, a place to rebuild what had been broken. Sarah, now a friend, sent David a message. "You're stronger than you know." He smiled, knowing she was right. In the end, David learned that family isn't defined by who gets a plane ticket or a seat at the table. It's defined by love, sacrifice, and the courage to keep going when the plan falls apart. He looked at Emma and Noah, sleeping soundly after a day of adventure, and felt a quiet victory. The trip to Hawaii was someone else's story. This one messy, imperfect, and real was his.